Hello and welcome to Access Asia. Coming up, the Marcos clan is back in the Philippines. Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the son of the former dictator, has controversially rebranded his family's name and won the presidential election. The Taliban orders all Afghan women to cover their faces in public. Gone are the platitudes of a softer rule as the group imposes more and more restrictions on women and girls. He had Beijing's blessing, now he will do its bidding. John Lee ran unopposed and was elected as Hong Kong's new leader. We'll take a closer look at the former security official. The Marcos name is back in power in the Philippines. It's the son of the late dictator, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., is ahead in the presidential election. Nonetheless, his popularity is a bit of a surprise. The Marcos clan was ousted by a people's revolt 36 years ago.
Wherever Ferdinand Jr. goes, the shadow of his father, former dictator Ferdinand Marcos, seems to follow, and it's been the case throughout his presidential bid.
Ang Pilipinas!
His campaign slogan, "Together we will rise again."
Alalahanin din po ninyo.
Your support for the Uniteam and the Marcos Duterte pair is not only support for the candidates. This is support for the development of the Philippines. This is support for a good future.
Marcos, also known as Bong Bong, has tried to evoke widespread nostalgia of his father's rule as a so-called golden era for the country. Supporters of the former strongman argue that during his 20 years in office, the Philippines was marked by progress and prosperity.
He will bring back the Philippines back when his father was the president. Like the Philippines was really in its success era, and the Philippines was on top.
But his critics aren't convinced. His father was ousted in 1986 by protests under the People's Power Revolution after a brutal 20-year rule as president. The Marcos family has since been accused of stealing nearly $10 billion of public funds, money that the Filipino government is still trying to get back. Some are still scarred by the decade of martial law imposed by Marcos Sr. When he was in power, rights groups say tens of thousands of people were imprisoned, tortured and killed for criticizing the former dictator. Bonifacio was one of the victims.
I experienced several forms of torture. They applied flat iron to the soles of my feet. And I cried in pain, of course. The son of the dictator becoming president after 50 years, when Marcos Sr. declared martial law, is really unthinkable.
Critics say Marcos Jr. has tried to rewrite history using social media to sway younger voters. For those who are old enough to remember his father's rule, a Marcos return is a step backwards.
Well, there was international outcry after the Taliban ordered Afghan women to cover their faces in public. When the group returned to power last year, it had initially pledged a softer rule than when it had led the country 2 decades ago. But sometimes with each month, week, and even day, there have been new limits on freedom and movement, particularly for women and girls. From dress restrictions to education. Now, here's how some in the western city of Herat have been reacting.
So for that you can see my wearing, and even with this they have problems. They are saying you don't have good wearing, so you have to wear that blue bokras, like long one, have no eyes showing, no face showing, no hand showing.
This order is not acceptable for us. The Afghan girls have seen a lot of repression since the Taliban came back. We didn't deserve it. A few months ago, we didn't used to wear this mask. But now we have to hide our face, because if the Taliban see we are uncovered, they will punish us.
All of us agree that women should cover themselves. If women are uncovered, they spread vulgarity. For people like me who come from villages, hijabs are good, but people in cities don't support it.
For more, we can speak to France 24's Afghanistan correspondent Solène Chalvon-Fioriti. Hello, Solène. First of all, just take us through this decree.
So the decree is very clear. It says that if the Afghan women don't comply, their guardian will be visited at his home. If they don't comply for the second time, then the guardian will be taken to jail for 3 days. If they don't comply for a third time, then the guardian might even be taken to court. So this is how repressive the decree is. And there is something else, actually. The decree also says that if Afghan women want to avoid all those cruel measures, they should actually stay home as much as they can. It says a third thing. It says that to wear the burqa is preferable, what we call the chadri in Dari and in Pashto. So Afghan women are left with a very, very tiny flexibility, which is actually to choose between the niqab and the burqa. This is what's happening at the moment.
And preferably just to stay home. I mean, the restrictions that we've seen on freedom, on movement, did you expect this was coming?
I mean, those restrictions were very predictable. It's not that we're discovering who the Taliban are. For a very simple reason, for years, you're able to visit the Taliban in their areas, whether you're a journalist or a researcher. So you could see that in their areas, there was no women outside. So why would have they changed this, at a larger level? So this obviously was predictable. What's very sad is that the first 6 months of, the takeover of the Taliban, the first 6 months, they were kind of, I wouldn't say flexible with the women, but they were not attacking them, as strongly as they're doing now for the past months. It has been first, women not driving, then, women not traveling on their own. And again, those measures, I think that many observers have thought that they were being taken just to flatter what we call the hardcore line of the Taliban. Why? Because I have never seen an Afghan woman driving a car, maybe twice, in 10 years of Afghanistan. You never see an Afghan woman traveling on her own in the country, because in such a dangerous place and in a traditional culture, obviously women don't do that. So people have thought that, maybe within the movement, they were trying to flatter this hard line, but that, on the other side, women would, get, some very basic rights, like the one of getting educated, and this has not happened. So it's just another proof of this civil terror and of this gender apartheid that they're trying to implement in Afghanistan.
Yeah, decree came out several days ago. Are women observing it?
So first of all, in the countryside, this is not really changing their lives, okay? Because most of women in the countryside already wear the burqa. But for the women in the cities, it's extremely different. And they're now, we say we don't really have very updated figures, but we do think that 40% of women of this country actually live in the cities. And those ones, for now, are not following those rules and those orders. Why? Because they are already, since the Taliban came back, they have changed slightly, but they have changed the way they wear. It's more sober, it's longer, it's more habaya than, a trench coat. So they were changing their outfit. And actually, a lot of them wear the mask, the mask which was
COVID-19.
Yeah, which was COVID-19. So if you look at the footages, you would see that they are still, wearing this outfit. And I don't think that they will, accept this burqa rule easily, knowing that in the city, something that your audience might know is that it's extremely different for an Afghan woman to wear a niqab and to wear a burqa. The burqa, you don't see anything. It blinds you totally. Just to have the grill close to your eyes, you need to hold it from inside. So you have just one hand left. So imagine, in a chaotic city like Kabul, where you have no sidewalks, there are a lot of women falling on the streets. It's a synthetic fabric, so it makes you sweat a lot. I mean, it's really not an outfit that they enjoy wearing. So I don't think so. I don't think that in the cities, the women will obey to that. I don't think so.
All right, Solène, thank you very much. Solène Chalvon-Fioriti. Well, John Lee, who ran unopposed and had Beijing's blessing, won the election as Hong Kong's leader. That makes him the first security official to take the city's top job. In 2019, Lee oversaw the at times brutal crackdown of pro-democracy demonstrations. And with a career as a government enforcer, his appointment can be seen as a sign that the chief executive's powers are waning while China strengthens its grip on the territory.
Congratulations.
John Lee has been chosen as Hong Kong's next leader. The 64-year-old candidate was the only one in the running to be the business hub's chief executive. He was voted in by a small committee of Beijing loyalists, which is vetted by the government. Of the over 1,400 members, only 8 voted against him. In his winning address, Lee said it's a new phase for Hong Kong.
Having restored order from chaos, it is high time that Hong Kong starts a new chapter of development, a chapter that will be geared towards greater prosperity for all. We are at a time of great opportunities as well as challenges.
The staunch Beijing loyalist will succeed the outgoing leader Carrie Lam. Under her watch, pro-democracy protests erupted throughout the city in 2019. Lee was an important figure in cracking down on the protests as the city's security chief. In the role, he was sanctioned by the United States for helping impose a national security law that quelled Hong Kong's democracy movement. As Hong Kong's chief executive, Lee has said he wants to enact new security laws, stoking fears his leadership could signal Beijing's intent to tighten its oversight on Hong Kong. His election makes him the first security official to take on the region's top job. He'll be sworn in on July 1st, 25 years after Hong Kong's handover to China from Britain.
All right, we end with science trying to take the bite out of going to the dentist, at least for the dentist. Look at this. A Japanese robotics company has created a lifelike patient and unruly child to help dentists train, complete with screaming, eye-rolling, and kicking. And as creepy as it may seem, it is a clever idea. Dental workers need to learn how to operate on unruly patients while not harming them. This gives them the opportunity. The robot, named Pedioroid, is invaluable for that, which helps you at least stomach the $200,000 price tag. Well, that's it for this edition. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned to France 24.